All aboard, hearties! Welcome to Hope Valley Central Station.
Your transportation to Hope Valley with your conductors, Kerri
and Morgan.
Welcome back, hearties, to episode 2. If y'all sat through listening to all of episode 1 and y'all are back, let me just say, y'all are brave and y'all deserve a Medal of Valor. I'm just saying.
No, I agree. That was a pretty lengthy episode. And I mean, if you guys,
it was.
I mean, especially after watching me just completely lose myself and act like a 2-year-old, and you guys still stuck around, you guys really are the MVPs, because that was pretty crazy.
That was pretty awesome. If y'all have not watched our first episode, I do encourage you to go back. And if you don't watch any other part of the episode, I put in the comment section the time stamp for when this particular surprise happened. And you get to watch Morgan freak out. So I
completely lose myself. I mean, completely just lose it on camera because I had no idea this was coming at all. She just tells me to look at a video and just like it just goes downhill from there, guys. Just like right off the bat. But speaking of that surprise, I'm gonna let you guys know a little bit of what's going on. So it's gonna be pretty much my reaction to a special video cameo that Kevin McGarry got sent me because Kerri paid $50 for him to talk to me, which was just goes to show you how kind and like selfless she is. But I want to talk about Cameo just for this 1 second because Kevin Cameo uses these celebrities in order to give them the ability to raise money for a special charity that's close to their heart. And Kevin pretty much chose the Actors Fund of Canada that helps give people who are working in theater and different things. Right now with COVID, all of those theaters are closed down. A lot of people are out of work because of it. Not just actors, but I think even I think some of this even goes to people who work behind camera and behind the scenes. I could be wrong, but I think it helps a lot of people, and it's obviously close to his heart. And you guys get to hear Kevin talk to you. Like he could say, like he said my name twice in my video, and I've noticed he says his everyone's name several times in different videos. So if you want to hear Kevin McGarry say your name, there you go.
I wouldn't mind.
So.
Oh, but yes, it is a really great cause, and Kevin really puts himself into those videos, and it is so obvious.
Yeah,
he is so true to who he is.
And he doesn't like he doesn't. It's so long. It's so detailed. He does like he gets funny with it. He does you dad jokes. He sings. He does all kinds of different things. So if you want to hear Kevin McGarry either sing to you, give you some dad jokes, whatever. Trust me, it's well worth every single penny. Even though I didn't pay for this, I can say if I did pay for this, it would have been well worth the money.
And I did pay for it, and I can tell you her reaction was well worth the money. Okay, well, guys, just a quick disclaimer. Right after we did episode 1, Morgan's internet decided to go out. So she is working from her phone to record this and working from her phone internet. So if things are cutting out a little bit or whatever, we apologize. We are doing the best we can. So just hang in there with us. And as
I
we
do not apologize.
Fixed,
I do not apologize to how rude I was to my internet provider, though, because he deserved it. Guys, I have been without Wi-Fi. I've been without Wi-Fi for like a week straight. So understand having the stress of needing to do these videos, wanting to do these videos, and not being able to do it because my laptop needs Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I've been stressed to the max.
Yeah. So just bear with us if things are not quite up to the standard you would expect out of this. We're just kind of moving forward as best we can here.
Yeah, but we had to do this video and we needed to put it out as soon as possible. Due to the fact that next episode, like right now, we just watched episode 7.
And
the promo just released that this next coming episode, we will find out Nathan's secret that he is keeping involving Fort Clay, possibly Jack, and how that affects Elizabeth. And that's what we will be talking about today, guys.
Nathan's secret is the topic of today's episode. So, all right, well, let's dig in to this. First of all, I will just say Nathan did not lie to Elizabeth.
Amen.
Okay.
Preach it, sister.
I just
Preach
want
it.
to make that point very clear. If he has quote unquote lied to her, it has been through omission, not a direct I'm telling you a falsehood thing here.
Yeah.
So, but
it would be just the fact that he kept something from her. And in the way that I see things, you're not lying to someone.
Yeah,
To
I
me,
agree.
like keeping something from someone and lying to someone is two different things. So I'm not saying that that's something that he was right in doing, but then again, we don't know the secret. He might have a very good explanation as to why he kept the secret for so long away from Elizabeth. So, but we'll see.
Yeah. I think what convinces me more than anything that Nathan is not lying to Elizabeth in this is the very first time he meets her. When he hears her name, he automatically says, I never had the opportunity to serve with your husband, but by all accounts, he was a great Mountie. So, I mean, he offered that information. She didn't ask him, did you know Jack? She never even mentioned Jack's name until Nathan brought it up. So I don't think if Nathan was trying to hide anything from her as far as his involvement with Jack's death, I don't think he would have told her that. I don't think he would have volunteered that information because he literally just threw that door open for skepticism if that was the case.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So I really don't see Nathan doing that. He has told several people on several different occasions that he never knew Jack. He never got to serve with Jack. So
way too many times, in my opinion. He shouldn't have even had to do that more than once, especially Elizabeth, because I mean, you know, and I think I even heard him. Like if you watch back at this episode, in the inquiry episode, he kind of looked like his face was kind of a little bit like he was hurt that she was asking him, like pretty much in a way, like asking him again, like, did you know Jack? Like, do you know how many people have, like 3 different people have asked him if they knew him. So I can understand him feeling like, you know, being accused of being a liar already.
Yeah,
so,
I agree. I mean, poor Nathan. He has just been through it this season.
Y'all, all I'm saying is that if this is, I'm just not even gonna get into that. I'm just gonna keep that to myself real quick. We'll save that for a different video. But but he's not a liar. He's not a liar.
Yeah, I really don't believe he is. I really don't believe he is.
Because he even said
Nathan is reserved.
Yeah.
Nathan is reserved, and as his dad said, he's very economical with words. So there's that. But
also, like, okay, like for instance, whenever Allie didn't go to school, and she said she did, and all this kind of stuff. What was I can't remember the exact words that Nathan said, but he pretty much said to mean what you say, pretty much.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that he wouldn't implement these kind of lessons until Allie, and not be doing those things for himself.
Yeah.
You know, like that doesn't strike me. Nathan doesn't just strike me as a parent that's do as I say, not as I do. He's not that kind of parent.
Not that type of parent.
No.
He's
it's you know, I'm going to make sure I'm the best role model that you could possibly have. You know, especially after the circumstances that she's already been through, having a father abandoning her, having her mother die, and all of that.
Well,
you know,
I mean, just think about episode 7, the scene in the jail. And sorry, I'm about to start busting out laughing here. When Allie's like, do I have to invite Lucas? Or no, why does she like Lucas? Talking about Elizabeth. And Nathan corrects her and says, Mr. Bouchard. And she's like, why does she like Mr. Bouchard? So Nathan might not, I mean, Lucas might not be Nathan's favorite person in Hope Valley at this point, but he's still making sure that Allie is respecting her elders and that even he is respecting the fact that Elizabeth's happy, and that's truly what you want for someone who's happy, or for someone you care about to be happy.
Right.
But I mean, when it came to whether or not she had to invite Lucas to her adoption ceremony, he didn't really care.
He pretty much was like, okay, how do I do this? Because I pretty much just scolded her for not inviting Elizabeth. Now she's like now she's asking if she can invite Lucas. This is not how I saw this coming. What do I do? Because I don't want him there.
Yeah. Episode 7, guys, was incredible. Of What Calls the Heart. I was literally laughing so hard. It was such a good episode.
Like, but I do want to know, like, if that scene was improvised with the Allie, like grabbing that cup and like bringing it across the bars and the bars, and like, let me out. I know that was improvised because, like, Jada has a good sense of humor. She brings that into her character. She brings that into her interviews that she's done with Kevin. Her and Kevin obviously have that good humor chemistry going even behind the scenes. So I love that. But yeah, I definitely want to know if that was improvised because that was really funny. That was a nice touch.
Yes, it was.
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know I wanted that scene until it happened because I would have loved like, you know, I didn't know I wanted that scene until it happened.
It's kind of like Floyo. They're the couple we never knew we needed, but now we can't get enough of.
Girl,
they're the cutest. They're the cutest.
I'm not gonna lie, this episode, you know, with Ned asking her to marry him. Spoiler alert, anyway, he doesn't want episode 7. Sorry, should have said it before, but whenever he started asking her if he'd done all that, I was like, oh, please do not do what you're about to be doing. And that is, you know, taking it back because, you know, he had a really high fever. He had a really high fever. I was thinking to myself, I know you ain't about to do that, Hallmark. I know you ain't about to do that because it says in the next episode that there's going to be a wedding. So you best not do that.
Yeah. All right. Well, back off of that rabbit trail.
Yeah, off that rabbit trail. Sorry.
We're trying to condense our episodes, guys. No, don't apologize. I'm as bad as doing it. I'm as bad as about doing it is what I'm trying to say. But we're trying to keep our episodes down to about 45 minutes or so. So we're going to have to curb our rabbit trails just a tad. But yeah, so we've established Nathan is not a liar. There is some kind of bad blood between Nathan and Superintendent Hargraves. And I don't know what it is, to be totally honest. I feel like Superintendent Hargraves, maybe that promotion kind of went to his head just a little bit, and then Nathan showed him up.
Even Bill said that that's not the Hargrave that he trained. Because everybody, like he said, like he talked about, like he told Nathan, that doesn't sound like Hargraves. At least not the one that I trained.
Yeah.
And you know that does happen, with anything, not just in the military, not just in the police force or anything like that. But a lot of people take their power and it goes straight to their head.
Yeah. And I mean, Nathan did disobey orders. That was I love the conversation between Nathan and Bill when Bill's like, "So you disobeyed orders." And Nathan's like, "But I captured him."
He's like, "You disobeyed orders."
But you disobeyed orders. You know, he's basically telling him that's not the point here. The point is you disobeyed orders.
Yeah.
So I do love that Bill was kind of a stickler on that.
But at the same time, it kind of also shows you how Nathan is. Like he's going to do what he thinks is right, whether it's against the rules or not. And that
what other Mountie that we know does that sound like? I wonder.
Maybe the other one who has the only other Mountie that, you know, has Elizabeth's heart.
Maybe. I mean, just a wild guess, but yeah. But yeah,
I think all you guys know who we're talking about. It's pretty clear as day.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't, you need to go back and rewatch the whole series.
You obviously aren't a true Hardy. Obviously.
Oh, word. Whether or not your team Nathan is beside the point here.
Yeah.
We're talking about them as Mounties. We're not talking about their relationship here. We're talking about them as Mounties. But yeah, I'm really curious. I feel like there's got to be something with Superintendent Hargraves that comes back up. I don't really feel like that storyline's done. And I mean, it could surprise me, but I just
feels empty on that part.
Yeah.
It definitely feels empty on that part because, I mean, Bill questioned it a lot more than Nathan did because Bill's like, I trained this dude. This is not the dude I trained.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And obviously obviously whether it's Allie's speech, which I think it is Allie's speech that really softened his heart and kind of brought him back, I guess, maybe because we saw that little exchange between him and Bill where they kind of like nodded at each other.
Yeah.
So it could have been just the power struggle, or it could be something else. But I'm kind of leaning more towards the power just going to his head.
Sorry, I was trying to do the chair thing, but this is one of those office chairs, so you can't really do that with.
You're trying to do like Cammy and just kind of slowly.
No, the how Bill like did his chair real hard on the ground to do the objection thing. I was trying to be funny, and it did. There you go. That wasn't an objection, but since y'all are all looking at me, I love
Nathan's little smile on him because he was like, "I know you just did not do that."
Oh my word! Kevin said it. I think it was Kevin that said it better than anybody else could. Nobody does bro like Jack Wagner. Those two have the best relationship on screen. Oh my word, they're two of my favorites.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly, I probably would need to go back to the seasons and really investigate Jack and Bill's relationship, but it's almost like Nathan and Bill are even working to having an even better relationship than even he did with Jack. And
Bill definitely had a father-son relationship with Jack, and I believe he might have even said that at some point, that he viewed Jack as his own son. That he had that kind of bond with Jack.
And
but
but anyways, we should probably get back off of this another rabbit trail.
Guys, we're obsessing over these characters. I'm sorry, we can't stop. Sorry, not sorry.
We also need to keep a lot of these views of these certain things for whenever we do recaps, which we're planning on doing, guys. We are planning on doing recaps. We're just waiting for the season to end, and then
But anyway, getting back to it, I don't think we've seen the last of Superintendent Hargraves.
No,
and
hopefully not. Hopefully not.
We need another theory that we need to debunk, is that Nathan was one of the recruits. As I have accidentally said, Kevin's too old for that. Guys, I will make fun of myself. Okay, y'all don't have to make fun of me. I will make fun of myself. Stuff comes out my mouth.
But y'all, like we literally dive into how old the actual actors are, and Daniel's older than all of them, and he played Jack. So he's almost 40. He's 39. Kevin just turned 36. I think Aaron's 35, and Chris is 32.
I think so, yeah. Aaron's like 35 or 36. Yeah, her and Kevin are both the same age, yeah.
Yeah. And so like, they're too old
to give you another example real quick, and again, this is off topic, I'm sorry, but to give you another example real quick, we were doing an Instagram live last night, which we do after the episodes air on Sunday nights. And I don't even remember exactly. Oh, I was trying to say that we have yet to see Lucas in Elizabeth's house. And I said, we have yet to see Lucas inside Nathan's house. And I stopped and I'm like, okay, well, we haven't seen him in Nathan's house, but that's kind of beside the point.
Wrong. You're not wrong.
No, not wrong. And then people started commenting, they were like, yeah, they need to have a sleepover next season. So guys, we provide our own entertainment. Okay, I'm just saying, we are not bored with ourselves.
And we will have our separate Instagrams and our podcast Instagram linked in the description. And I have we pretty much save almost all of our lives, and I have that live was actually done on my account, and I do have it saved to my IGTV. So go check that out, because a lot of different things were said about this last episode that need to be said. But we did
going back. Yeah, we're not boring. If y'all find us boring, I'm sorry, but we don't find ourselves boring.
You don't have to say.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But anyway,
I speak my mind.
Nathan is I don't mean this critically, but he's too old to be a recruit. For another thing, he was stationed at Fort Clay. and was on an assignment.
Yeah, they're
You
not
do
going to get.
You do not give that kind of an assignment to a rookie,
Mm-mm.
basically, to a trainee.
Yeah.
You do not give that kind of assignment to a trainee.
And
So
I went back and looked. And
Nathan
it
was not
cattle.
a recruit.
Yeah, it was cattle rustlers, and basically what
Yeah.
that means is they were cattle thieves. They literally stole people's cattle.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, so Nathan did not lie. Nathan was not a recruit. There is something personal between him and Superintendent Hargraves. We just don't know what it is yet. So Morgan, what's our next point on that? Really, because I feel like my view of what Nathan's secret might be kind of changed a little bit after the promo for episode 8.
Yeah, it changed for me too. Not a lot, but a good bit.
Yeah,
enough for us to re-record this. Obviously, we had to anyway, which was kind of what Kerri says. It's a God wink.
It was really
because we already had this recorded like a week ago, and then as soon literally the day that we were going to post this, our first recording of this particular topic, my internet went out, and so we couldn't do it because I had the footage and I needed to email it to Kerri to put on to our account and do some editing that needed to be done. And so she was like, we were trying to figure out different ideas, just like we were just going to wait until my internet came on. And then obviously now it's Monday. We usually record on Mondays. And so we're like, you know what, this promo and everything that's coming out already, and just this promo, let's just re-record it. I'll record it on my end, so I'll already have the footage and we can do this. And so and then we got talking today and we're like, isn't that just a God thing? Like, obviously we need to re-record this. Your internet goes out to where we were pretty much literally could not record our post our last one, so just saying.
Yeah. So what would you say? Well, and I will say this, and we're going to circle back to some other evidence that has come up, but what would you say your initial thoughts on what Nathan's secret, what do you think Lucas's secret is? I mean, let's just go ahead and dive into the whole thing. What do you think Nathan's secret? Get this brain working. What do you think? What was your original thoughts on what Nathan's secret is, and what do you think his secret is now?
Okay, so my original thought was that obviously I think that because of Nathan's suspension,
Mm-hmm.
that he ultimately couldn't do his job. Had he not gotten suspended, he would have been the one to do what Jack's job was, which was to train the recruits and to take them on that mission that Jack took his on, that caused that ultimately ended in Jack dying because of the landslide. Due to his suspension, he obviously couldn't do that, and then he of course transferred to Fort Simpson. One question that it needs to be answered, I hope gets answered, is the length of time that not only were Nathan and Allie in Fort Simpson before they came to Hope Valley, but also the length of time between his ultimate suspension and when he actually transferred. Because I feel like he was suspended, but I think maybe he stayed in Fort Clay for a little while before actually transferring.
Well, I mean, if he was kind of on trial, then he would have had to be. If there was already an inquiry,
he wouldn't have been able to leave until after. Yeah, he wouldn't have been.
And that is a quick point. You mentioned Allie is a quick point that I just remembered. If we did the math, a lot of people have been talking about like how old Allie was. Allie since she was 4, and that's not the case. We did the math the other day. If she was 10 when they moved to Hope Valley, and that's been 2-3 years ago at this point, and he said that he's had with her for what, about 6 years?
Almost 6 years.
Yeah, almost 6 years.
So that leaves her like 7, 12, almost 8.
Yeah, she would have been somewhere around 7 years old when Nathan became her guardian. So there's just another little snippet of information there that we did some math on.
And we did the math.
Sorry, continue with.
And that does mean that Allie was in Nathan's possession. Nathan was her official guardian at that time in Fort Clay. She was there. As far as actually being on the base or anything, I'm not sure. really all about that. Allie did has actually been vocal in saying that, Nathan changed after Fort Clay, and that, talking about basically saying that, they already did this and they were already trying and, why are they doing it again? Why are they doing this to him again? I think that ultimately Jack took Nathan's position and died
Because
because of it.
we do know that Jack, when he told
The
Elizabeth
assignment, yeah,
that it was like a 2-month training assignment, that the worst thing that can happen to him was that he would lose his voice yelling at the recruits.
yeah,
But
and that ultimately was the only reason why.
you think about it. Jack and Elizabeth were planning on going, I think it was to Chicago on their honeymoon, which they
Yeah.
didn't get to go to, but they used Fort Clay as their
their
honeymoon.
honeymoon.
So Elizabeth was at Fort Clay probably while Nathan was still there. So I mean, that just kind of blows my mind. They probably did not run across each other at all during
Because
that
he was
amount of
suspended.
time. Yeah, but
So
I mean, just the fact that they would have probably both been there at the same time, just blows my mind. But how would you say your view of what Nathan's secret is has changed after the promo?
Honestly,
I mean, I can kind of say my thought if you need a minute to gather yours, but
yeah, go ahead, because I'm trying to find the right words to say and kind of
yeah,
explain.
I feel like we both pretty much had the same thoughts of that Nathan's suspension, that Nathan was supposed to have the training position that Jack ended up taking, but that his suspension at Fort Clay made Jack have to come in and take that over, and obviously Jack ended up getting killed. So I thought it was more of a survivor's guilt thing. But I'm starting to feel like there's actually more to it than that. After this promo, I literally paused it at each clip of him saying at Fort Clay, and then him saying, "I'm sorry, Elizabeth." And when I paused it on him saying, "I'm sorry, Elizabeth," and looked at his face, looked in his eyes, because you can tell so much about their expressions when they're in a scene, when they're in a scene, and when they're in a
Elizabeth, and Elizabeth's face is also very telling, because a lot of people,
she's not angry. Her face is not angry. It's
she's
shocked,
not angry, and
it's
exactly what it was described in the promo. It was distraught, but distraught does not mean angry.
Yeah, but I mean, when you look in Nathan's face when he says, "I'm sorry, Elizabeth," there is a tiny break in his voice. I listened to it multiple times.
Yeah,
there is a tiny break.
Just like when he said, "I love you."
That was way more of a break there, because that was a personal heartbreak for him at that moment. But it's like you can see some heartache in his face when he says, "I'm sorry, Elizabeth," but it looked like "I'm sorry, I wanted to spare you from ever having to find this out," not "I'm sorry you found this out. I'm sorry." It was more of
"I'm sorry I did this," or whatever. He did not do anything. I do not think Nathan did anything at all.
There is no shame in his face whatsoever. No guilt in his face whatsoever. He's literally just looking at her with "I was hoping you would never have to find this out and never have to know this detail that would kind of mar your memories of this or whatever." I have no idea what that means, in total honesty. But that for me is the biggest thing, is I feel like there's more to it than just the fact that Jack took his place. I thought there's more to that story than that.
One theory that a lot of people have been saying was that maybe Nathan was one of the people that helped dig Jack's body out. And my take is that I feel like the only way that would be something that would actually happen is if Superintendent Hargraves punished Nathan by making him do it.
Possibly.
Because if you think about it, had he been suspended, he wouldn't be there. He would be probably in an makeshift office, signing a bunch of paperwork, or being involved in his inquiry and all that kind of stuff for it.
Yeah.
So I feel like he wouldn't actually have anything to do with the actual training or anything like that. Like he wouldn't be helping Jack or anything like that. And ultimately, you know, we saw how hard Graves was with Nathan. And the way that he kind of spoke to Nathan, the way that he treated Nathan, that he definitely was holding a grudge against him. He was definitely angry with Nathan. So
and it
I
was
feel like
personal.
that would be
It wasn't even the Mounties. It was personal, because if it was the Mounties, then he wouldn't have just let it go with Allie's speech.
No. It was something personal.
Allie's speech was moving on a personal level. If it was his job, then they would have been like, look, I'm sorry, but he did this wrong. So, you know, whatever. But one piece of evidence that has come up, and I've seen several people post about this on Instagram, that I kind of started seeing people posting about it after I posted on my Insta stories, kind of asking about it. So I feel like I'm not trying to give myself all the credit, but I'm saying that it was people that I tagged in that started posting about it. So I'm kind of thinking I got some people either kicked into gear or something to do that. But I'm like, okay, there are obvious references to Alice in Wonderland in the series, and that book has been mentioned. Was it Allie that was reading Alice in Wonderland, or was it?
It was Allie, okay. And then of course Lucas was carrying the book a lot too. He carried the book, I think.
So I specifically heard that book mentioned, and there's a lot of Alice in Wonderland references. And then Anne of the Island is one of the books that Elizabeth brought to
Angela,
thank you, because I was drawing a complete name blank there for just a second. I don't know why. It was like in my head and it wouldn't come out my mouth. But then there was another book. So I've seen people pointing out different books that have been mentioned and the significance of them. And I'm like, there's one book that has been mentioned that I have never seen anybody do that to. And that was Elizabeth brought Cooper Call the Wild. And I'm like, okay. So I posted on my Insta stories. I'm like, okay, I've seen y'all posting references to this book and this book, but is there any similarities to Call the Wild? And guys, after I posted that,
everybody was sharing it.
Yeah, well, everybody was sharing it. People started posting about it. I had people messaging me screenshots of what other people had said about it, like on Facebook or whatever, because I'm not in all the Facebook groups and stuff.
I'm only on like 2.
Stay out of those.
Yeah, I tend to stay out of those.
Yeah, but
I will say this: if you guys don't know the book Call to the Wild, it's not exactly a book that you would give a child, not necessarily, because mainly because it has a lot of animal cruelty. It has some violence in it, some death in it. I mean, and it's pretty descriptive.
I mean, if you think about it, books back in those days were not candy coated for kids.
No,
like they were not dumbed down for kids. Stuff was not candy coated. A lot of the old fairy tales that Disney has taken and made all these really happy fairy tales.
If you think about it,
actually had some really gruesome.
The original Alice in Wonderland was pretty graphic.
Yeah,
the original,
pretty dark. Yeah, so so yeah, Call the Wild, I would say, is a lot the same way. But so I kind of took everybody's stuff that they were sending me and stuff, and I went on Google and started looking this up. But guys, when I first got sent something about this, I'm just saying, you can ask Morgan, I was blowing her phone up for an hour, texting in all caps.
She was pretty much doing the equivalency of my freak out over Kevin over this.
That's maybe even a little more.
Maybe a little bit more. Because I didn't actually see your physical reaction. I was just getting like my phone blown up.
I was practically hyperventilating for an hour over this, guys. And like literally I was texting like 3 people at the same time, just freaking out, going, I have literally never freaked out this much over a piece of evidence before. Like I was mind blown, mic drop, boom, all the different stuff. I was losing it. So this if you're not familiar with the story of Call the Wild, and I remember reading it as a kid, but it had been, that's been a year or 2.
I don't think I've ever read it.
So I do remember reading it, but I was like, and once somebody reminded me what it was about, I'm like, oh yeah, now I remember. But and we're going off the book here, we're not going off of a movie remake, because there's tons of movie remakes and I have no idea.
Yeah, we don't do movie remakes. We don't do, whenever, because you have to take into consideration, like, movies were just starting to be made in this era. And so, like, movie interpretations did not exist back then. Like, they went straight off the books. And I feel like if the writers were going to use the books as references, they're going to use the books, not the movie not the movies.
Yeah, when it comes to like Anne of the Island, I've never read that. I've got it. I've never read it. I need to, but I have kind of been going off of the movie off of that. But I feel like the movie is kind of the condensed version of it. Just from everything I've heard other people say from the book, I'm kind of like, yeah, that's pretty true.
Yeah, because usually people have been using like the movie, the Anne and Gilbert and all of them, the movie scenes. But I'd say that movie does get pretty close to the books. They don't really do a whole lot. It really does. Yeah. They don't really do
that particular version anyway does.
Yeah, the particular version that people are drawing from kind of go very close to the book. So they don't have any extra stuff in there. Yeah,
but I pulled this up on Google, and I'm going to kind of skip around just a little bit and point out what I feel like are some of the, like, we were talking before we started recording this, and I looked this up and I went, OMG. And
I thought she was clearly talking about something else, and then I started freaking out because I was wrong. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, so I mean, this was like a boom for me. But the story of Call of the Wild is the story of a dog, of a sled dog. But I'm gonna kind of skip a little bit down here, and again, I'm just reading off of Wikipedia on Google. But and I'll link the Wikipedia article for Call of the Wild in the show notes for you, so y'all can read this for yourselves. But Buck gets stolen. He's a family pet, actually, in California, and then he gets stolen and sold as a sled dog. And it says that he is shipped to Seattle. Buck is shipped to Seattle, where he's confined in a crate, starved and ill-treated. When released, Buck attacks his handler, the man in the red sweater, who teaches Buck the law of club and fang, sufficiently cowing him. The man shows some kindness after Buck demonstrates disobedience. And I'm sorry, but the man in the red sweater who has been mistreating Buck, and then
who does that remind you guys of?
Maybe a certain superintendent who got a little big-headed and didn't like the fact
he abused his power.
Yeah,
because
didn't like
had he not been a superintendent, no way would he have been able to cause another inquiry accusing Nathan. He wouldn't have been able to do that if he was just any other Mountie. He abused his power as superintendent to call another inquiry, trying to, pretty much blame Nathan for something Nathan didn't have any true.
I mean, just the fact that there was an inquiry the first time, or not an inquiry, but that there was a suspension the first time when Nathan disobeyed that order. And Nathan was the hero. Like, Nathan was the one who captured these guys. But Superintendent Hargraves was mad because Nathan didn't obey his order. Never mind the fact he just captured these guys single-handedly. He's mad.
And had he actually done what I mean, look at it this way: had he actually listened to Superintendent Hargraves, they would have gotten away by the time that Nathan would have went all the way back to the camp, told them where they were, and then went all the way back.
Yeah.
And then what would they have done? Would they blame Nathan for that too? Like, oh, maybe if you would gallop faster, they could,
Yeah,
I feel like that's just,
yeah.
But yeah, that definitely.
I'm gonna skip down. So that one just kind of stuck out to me. The man in the red sweater thing that is abusing his authority over Buck and kind of disciplines him in order to get him in line. Again, just kind of, I'm not saying it is, guys. I'm just saying, here's what I'm saying.
I mean, we're interpreting all these. We're trying to, like, this has been done with the Alice in Wonderland books. It's done with the Anne of the Island books. Might as well do some digging into Call of the Wild.
Call of the Wild, yeah.
So. Because some of
But
the
it
things that
says,
some of the other stuff has been kind of far fetched too.
yeah,
Some of
you
it,
never
not
know.
all of it, but
You never know. But skipping down a little bit, it says the group meets John Thornton. Thornton. That sounds very familiar. Also, did y'all
I know
know?
that last name.
I googled this to make sure, but did y'all know that Jack is a nickname for John?
I didn't know that.
So John Thornton kind of semi sorta sounds like Jack Thornton. I mean, just saying. I mean,
Yeah.
there's kind of a little similarity to the ring there. The group meets John Thornton, an experienced outdoorsman. I mean, Jack was kind of an experienced Mountie. He was pretty much a legend in
Well,
his
also
time.
in the outdoors, because remember the scenes that they did whenever Elizabeth volunteered herself to watch those kids in that cabin,
Mm-hmm.
and he kind
Yeah.
of helped Elizabeth a lot with like the
Mm-hmm.
outdoors persons. And plus, we've seen him having to camp
Mm-hmm.
because like him, I think him and Rosemary had to camp out because she ran away and he had to go and say, oh, she got
Got
kidnapped,
kidnapped.
and he
Mm-hmm.
had to go and save her. And then by the time they couldn't make it back to before sundown, they had to camp out. And
Yeah.
that I feel like he was an experienced outdoorsman, probably through, of course, the Mounties, but nevertheless.
Yeah. So the group meets John Thornton, an experienced outdoorsman who notices the dog's poor, weakened condition. The trio ignores Thornton's warning about crossing the ice and presses onward. Exhausted, starving, and sensing danger ahead, Buck refuses to continue. Okay. Yeah, but the group presses onward, ... but their weight causes the ice to break, and the dogs and humans, along with their sled, fall into the river and drown. So, is there a possibility? I mean, John Thornton warning them of thin ice ahead, something could happen, and they ignore him and they end up killed. Is there a possibility that Jack knew something about the
Yeah, because
area
I mean,
of the
the thing
landslide?
is like, yeah.
Is that a possibility? I don't know.
Yeah, because that could also be a piece of evidence that Elizabeth did not know as far as Jack's involvement in as far as how Jack ended up dying the way that he died. Because if you think about it, I mean, he obviously knew something was going wrong because like he was on such high alert that he was able to save 2 recruits, which caused him to die because he was saving them. But still, like you had to, I feel like you had to react pretty fast.
Yeah. I don't feel like it's completely unrealistic to think that, because remember in one of the later seasons we found out that Henry Gowan was actually trying to tell the coal company this mine isn't safe. Like we actually find out later on that he was not at fault in the way people thought he was at fault.
And he has survivor's guilt.
Mm-hmm.
In
So,
a way, like
yeah,
a type of guilt, because had he not done something more, these women wouldn't have lost their husbands and these children would have lost their fathers.
Mm-hmm. But what ends up happening is that Buck ends up going off. The sled dog ends up going off into the wild, and then when he returns to John Thornton, he finds that John Thornton has been killed.
Mm-hmm.
And Buck goes back off into the wild, but every year he returns to, I'm trying to remember how it words it right here. Well, it says that he returns to mourn their deaths, but like to kind of puts me in mind of Nathan saying that to honor the memory of fallen Mounties and to honor their families and their wives and whatever. So, I mean, y'all make of this what you want. I'm just saying there's some parallels here.
Yeah, I like that too, because And obviously,
mean, when
the camera pans over to Elizabeth when he said that, and all this kind of different things like that. But also, like, I feel like that also kind of gives a little inkling to the secret, because a lot of people have been throwing around that maybe there's a possibility that Jack did something to cause his death, and that will ultimately cause some problems with Elizabeth's grief process. But I don't think it will. I think this is going to help her with her healing over Jack's
well,
death.
I mean, you think about it, when really has Elizabeth had time to fully process and grieve? Because, I mean, she lost her husband. She was in mourning. She finds out she's pregnant. So then she's just thrown another loop. She's preparing for a baby. She's a single mother. She's starting back school. She has two guys come into town trying to pursue her, whatever. When the heck has she really had time to process this? So honestly, I think this is going to bring it up and let her work through it.
The times that we did actually see her acknowledge Jack and like be sad and grieving was when, like, just thinking of the fact that she's having this baby without him. He's never going to be able to see Jack be born. He's never going to see Jack grow up. He's never going to hear Jack say dad or anything like that. Like, she grieved in that way. She grieved that. But as far as actually grieving his death and the loss of being able to like have her husband, we've never really seen her be able to grieve that much.
I mean, we've seen her say things like, I never thought I would be doing this alone, things like that, but we've never
and we of course and of course, like, whenever she was pregnant with baby Jack in the Christmas episode, we hear she watches the father and his little girl, and how she's and the father, she even looks up because he says, take a walk with me. And that was what and guys, this episode, Elizabeth asks Lucas to walk her home, and I almost thought that she was going to ask him to take a walk with her. I was going to flip out if that happened, because that would be very not a good thing for Team Nathan. Well, but I will say this: Nathan has walked Elizabeth to town from town to her home, and many other places before Lucas ever did. Sure, he wasn't holding her hand, but I mean, still.
So basically, guys, we do not believe Nathan is lying.
No.
Nathan was not a new recruit.
No.
There is something personal between him and Superintendent Hargraves that we really hope comes up again in all this.
Hopefully it's not one of those things that slip through the cracks that don't get addressed again.
I kind of wonder if Jack didn't do something a little bit rash, but at the same time, I really kind of hope they don't do that to Jack's memory. I don't know. We'll find out. I'm not really too worried about that.
But I definitely don't think that it's going to be something that Nathan actually did. I don't think that.
I don't think, no. I think Nathan's involvement would essentially be that his suspension,
had he not gotten suspension,
is what brought Jack there in the first place. And then if
but
he
also, I kind of wonder,
one of the ones to dig Jack out.
Yeah, and I kind of also wonder, because maybe while he was on his trail to try and find the cattle rustlers, maybe he saw the conditions.
Yeah.
And maybe whenever he also came back after everything, he was trying to tell Superintendent Hargraves, but Superintendent Hargraves was also very mad at Nathan because of not following his orders first time. Obviously, he took this information that Nathan gave him and was like, I don't care about that. And ultimately, what caused Jack's death also, because maybe he also kind of blames himself, like, had I not just, did things right, not only would I not have been suspended, but maybe nobody would have been able to get killed at all, because I would have warned him about the landslide. He would have listened to me. And, that's also a theory I was kind of spinning around, but I was wondering, because, I mean, being on horseback and going through all the mountains trying to find these guys, I'm sure he covered a lot of land trying to find these guys. So, and said that they were almost to the border. So I feel like that's a pretty long trail that he followed.
I do believe this secret is going to draw Nathan and Elizabeth closer together, because didn't Aaron actually say in an interview that they have a common loss?
Yeah.
like a shared loss that will bring them closer together, or
And
something like
obviously
that.
she was able to
They'll be
say
to
that.
bond over.
Yeah. Obviously, she could say that because we know that Nathan lost Colleen.
Right.
And we obviously know that she lost Jack. But that's not really necessarily a common loss. I mean, they both lost someone, but as far as it being really common, it's not. So for them to both be able to bond over Jack's death would be really something.
Yeah. So guys, y'all let us know what y'all think in the comments. One thing we are going to start doing with our episodes, and what it's time for right now, is what we're going to start calling Heart to Heart with the Hardys, which means the last couple of minutes of an episode, we're going to be looking at some comments or theories or whatever that y'all send us, and just kind of see what y'all had to say and kind of include y'all in this, because that's one thing we love about our Instagram lives, is getting to interact with y'all. So this is kind of our way of doing that on this. So every week, send us your thoughts and such, and send it to our podcast Instagram account.
Or
so
our
it'll
Twitter
kind of
account.
be or our Twitter account, which will be linked in the show notes as well. And we'll get to as many as we have time for. So I've got the ones from Instagram pulled up on my phone right now.
Okay.
And didn't realize that I couldn't actually see the whole got it pulled up wrong. Hang on just a second.
Another guys is that we're not a respecter of teams. So if you're Team Lucas or you're Team Nathan, we don't really care about that on this podcast, where we include all people. Yes, I know that me and Kerri both lean more towards being on Team Nathan, but it doesn't mean that we don't
yeah, we love Lucas. I mean, we seriously love Lucas.
We love Lucas.
Yeah,
just because we don't agree with the fact that we think that Lucas would be a good suitor for Elizabeth does not mean that we reject any of you Team Lucases for trying to share your thoughts, your parallels, your theories. We want everyone's theories. We are not a respecter of teams or characters or anything. So if
the only thing we will restrict is in our comments on our YouTube, any social media that we have. In the comments, anything that you leave for us, we will not accept bashing
of any character.
Yeah, any kind of hate talk towards Hallmark, the writers, the actors, anything like that. That will be where we'll draw the line. But to just,
and no fighting with each other in the comments either.
Yes.
So if someone says something like, said something that's not exactly hating on Lucas, but more being in more favor of Nathan, we do not want anyone from Team Lucas to go on there and bash them, saying that, oh, but Lucas did this, blah, 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 and try and start a fight. Okay. Yeah. And the same goes for Team Nathan. Don't do that to Team Lucas. Just, go on, keep scrolling.
This is a safe space, people. To quote Morgan from episode 1 of our podcast, this is a safe space. This is a space where we want to be able
to keep it PG.
Yes, keep it PG. PG safe space. We're doing good. All right. So our first response was on Instagram from @LynnCallsTheHeart __. Said watching the show is slightly painful at this point, but I mean, wow. I think they just took the words right out of our mouth.
Yeah, definitely.
Honestly, I feel like I'm one of the only people that I know that is not completely upset with Elizabeth at this point. But I also feel, and I tell people this, I feel like being a writer myself kind of makes me have a little more grace for what's going on. And like, I know a lot of people have complained that John Tinker has crammed too much into this season. He did. I believe somebody said he actually admitted that he's actually kind of admitted, sorry, I tried, I got went a little overboard with it. But
but I mean,
one thing that takes me back to is everybody hated season 2.
Everybody did.
I have a hard time going back, and I have a hard time remembering all the good things in season 2, and then I go back and watch it and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that happened. I forgot that happened.
Exactly.
I mean, season 2 is when Jack told Elizabeth, I love you.
And so everybody hates season 2. So that goes to show you that.
So I mean, guys, give them some time. Okay, we have a new writer, we have a new showrunner. Give them some time to learn
And
the
plus, like, I
ropes.
feel like this is a really I've heard people talk, like, I've heard widows talk about feeling and going through almost the same thing that Elizabeth is going through right now, and justifying her actions. Like, this is a new way of telling you or showing you a widow's reaction
Well,
to finding new love.
I saw one lady kind of defending her and saying kind of she did the same thing to her husband.
Exactly.
That basically they had kind of been flirting back and forth, because I'm sorry, there is a certain amount of flirtatious banter that goes on between friends. Okay. I mean, that just happens. But that they had kind of been flirting for years, and that he basically told her, hey, I want more out of this, and that she wasn't there at the time. So she turned him down and started dating somebody else. And then a year later, she realized she made a mistake, and they started dating. They're married. They've had a great relationship since then. So she's basically saying she's got the relationship that they have now.
Yeah.
And another thing that I'm really tired of personally is people saying that this triangle's been going on for 3 years. It has really only technically been going on for 2, because we didn't really see the triangle. Like, it was an understood triangle, but we didn't really, to me anyway, see it moving forward until the end of season 6. Because the first part of season 6,
they were introducing these characters, and they were playing mainly off of the fact that one, Nathan was the new Mountie in town. That obviously caused some rustle. But, you know, Lucas comes in. He's this mysterious gambler who now owns the saloon that's been in town for years. You know, they were mainly focusing on that. On their
and Elizabeth learning her introductions.
Yeah. I mean, Elizabeth
when she met Lucas, she's introducing herself as Mrs. Thornton. You know, I mean, she is very much still married in her mind at the beginning of season 6.
Yeah, and she doesn't correct Nathan either. And Nathan knows that she's now a widow, and she wouldn't, you know. And he even calls her Mrs. Thornton, Mrs. Thornton, or how, but everybody says Mrs. I don't think I've ever really heard someone full on say miserous.
I haven't either.
Isn't that like the right term?
I guess.
But
we live in the South. Nobody pronounces things the way they're spelled. No. Okay.
It's always Ms. and then it's like Mrs. So, but he goes Mrs. Thornton.
Yeah. And the one other person that left, we didn't really get. We had basically 2 responses this week, or for this particular episode. And
I haven't checked Twitter though, but I can check. Twitter.
we might do that, because we are going to be recording a 3rd episode coming up for this week. Our 3rd episode coming out this week as well. So we might catch up if there's any more that come in before we record that. We might throw those in that one. But I am probably going to butcher how to pronounce this, guys, because pronunciation has never been my strong point. But it looks like it would be at Krinnie Lee, KRINNIELEA.
Yeah, that's how I would say it.
However you pronounce your name, I'm so sorry if I'm butchering it. You might have to send me a little voice clip on Instagram telling me how to pronounce your name. Sorry, pronunciation's never been my strong point. Said, people say the money Lucas lent to Nathan was so generous. It was, but since Nathan caught her dad, don't you think that money was returned before he spent it? I would definitely say that Nathan returned the money.
I know that was brought up because of Bill, you know, because Bill was like, man, you really do love your niece. But I think Bill asked him about the money, but Nathan didn't really say anything back. He just kind of
he just asked him kind of where he got it. I don't remember him asking if he had paid it back though.
No. He asked, because he said that he got the money from Lucas. And but he asked, you know, like, how much of that money did you keep, or something like that.
I don't remember that. I'll have to go back and rewatch that scene.
But Nathan doesn't answer.
Yeah, I don't see Nathan as the type to keep that money though.
I don't either, but I guess but who knows? Maybe that's another thing that slips through the cracks that John Tinker got a little bit too.
Or maybe it was a deleted scene, because we've seen a lot of those. For example,
there's a
I think
lot.
there was a scene. I think there was a episode. I think there was a scene in episode 7 that we saw pictures of Allie sitting on the stool in the mercantile.
And Lee was supposed
her
to be
Lee,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we saw Lee, but we never saw Allie working in the mercantile. So I think that was another deleted scene.
Yeah. And doesn't Nathan tell her, aren't you supposed to be getting to the mercantile?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. But we never see Allie in the mercantile.
Yep.
And so the other scenes that happened were, like, for one, like, this was back in season 7, but Nathan and Elizabeth share a dance at Clara and Jesse's wedding.
Mm-hmm.
But we never get to see it because it's a deleted scene. If those things do not come out, I am boycotting.
I think I have heard that they are not in the that they're not, that particular scene is not in the DVDs, and I don't understand why it wouldn't be. So,
I'm gonna be mad, y'all.
Well, guys, we went a little over our time, but I hope this was encouraging for some of y'all who have been worried about what that is. And the Call of the Wild thing was just wild.
That was, yeah.
Call of the Wild was wild.
Saying that. A lot of people have been saying that a lot of our lives have been like therapy sessions for themselves and stuff. So that's another reason why we wanted to do these podcasts, because we just want to bring hope to everyone. Now we're bringing
this would be kind of more on a specific topic. Yeah, that's kind of become therapy for people. So I will say this too. Somebody sent me a screenshot where they had asked in episode 7, Lucas gives a quote to Elizabeth from a book, and she's like, I don't know what that is. And he tells her that it's from a book where a
man falls in love with a woman who
ultimately
rejects him.
Eventually, like at the end of it, ultimately rejects him. So okay, apparently her nickname is Crinny because her name is Crinthia.
Okay.
So apparently I am apparently pronouncing that correctly. And if I'm not, I apologize. And I hope you're getting a laugh out of me struggling over this and not taking it personally. Because I assure you it's not intended personally. But she had posted on Twitter and said, is that foreshadowing I'm seeing with the quote from the novel about rejection? #Hardee's. Well, Brian Bird shared her post on Twitter and said, Hardee's don't miss a thing in this show. So, I mean, that is a clue. For one thing, that is a clue. So, to me, Lucas,
Brian Bird sharing that doesn't actually mean which person he's talking about getting rejected, but that word ultimately means eventually. And technically, Elizabeth already rejected Nathan, supposedly.
Yep.
So if she's eventually going to reject someone,
we also know that, first of all, Kevin has said that it takes her most of season 8 to make a decision. So this supposed decision we're seeing right now is not the final decision, for one thing. For another thing, he said it will seem to go one way, and then it'll go the other way, and then it'll go back the other way. So we've seen it towards Nathan, we've seen it towards Lucas, so it's got to go back towards Nathan.
Yeah. Plus the little fire, big fire.
Yep.
That Kevin also talks about in our interview, and he even said in this interview that he just did with the bubbly cat, the bubbly sesh on Hallmark. He talks along the lines of that. He even talks about how, you know, the reason why the teams are at each other's throats and why they are acting the way that they are acting is because it all goes back to preference. It could be like whether you're someone who likes the big grand gestures, like a big picnic, roses, and, you know, all the trimmings and everything like that, or you want someone who is more open and honest and wears his heart on his sleeve.
Yeah. And guys, we'll go back after the end of season 8, we're going to go back and do an episode of all the parallels and all the reasons why the person who got chosen. So we're going to go back and do that after season 8 ends. But I wanted to share with y'all something that I did. I had, to use a little Andy Griffith term here, facetious. Barney tells, hey, is it facetious? Or no, he tells Andy, I hate it when you get obtuse. But I think facetious is used as well. But anyway, I have to get a little facetious every now and then. So I took, Kerri had sent me the screenshot from Twitter to tell me, because on our live Sunday night, she was telling us that Brian Bird had posted about that quote being foreshadowing. So I was like, what did he say? So she sent it to me so I could see. But I kind of took something that Kevin did and added just a little bit to it. I feel like Kevin would be proud. Just saying, I feel like Kevin would be proud. But I posted on my Insta story, it'll disappear, but I posted on my Insta story that screenshot from Twitter. And I said, I can give y'all a clue as to who Elizabeth chooses. The actor who plays him is tall, has brown hair, and his last name has a M, a C, an A, and a Y in it. And actually what's funny, and I actually like below that put MC dash A dash dash Y, because that's literally, but if you look at that, that could spell out McGarry or McNally. Like literally all of them.
Oh my, I love that. You told me that. Nicole just sent us something on our Hardy's chat. You need to go look at that. We need to put this in this video.
Okay, going to look at that now. Let me see.
See, guys, we're off the books. We're raw. We don't script this.
Mm-hmm. Wow. What was this from? Oh, a Facebook group. Nicole Smith just sent us this on Instagram and said, I just saw this on a Team Nathan Facebook group a few hours ago. What do y'all think about this theory? And someone says, my thought was that Joseph officiated the funerals for the fallen men, including Jack, who died at Fort Clay, which would explain why Minnie knows about Jack. Because she's like, because if you watch the preview for episode 8, she's like, Jack Thornton, how did you lose him? You know, kind of like she knows the name, like it sounds familiar to her. And so
now, what they mean is not the actual funeral that Jack had in Fort Clay. Sometimes they have mass funerals at the forts that they died in. They kind of do a little bit of a memorial at the fort that they pass away at. They kind of do this, you know, in wartime, you know, because it takes a while for the body to get back to the family members and everything like that. So they kind of hold like a little bit of a funeral. Like especially like I know in like in Afghanistan and different ones, they kind of those soldiers themselves who've lost a fallen teammate, you know, they kind of want to do a little bit of a ceremony. So it might I feel like that could fit. Whether or not it happens, you know, but I do feel like Manny does know something.
Yeah. Well, and like the person that responded to him said, good thought. He might be so disturbed by what happened, it's questioned his role as a preacher. And I mean, we see that in this particular episode, in episode 7, we see that Joseph is like not wanting to become a pastor again, but there's just something that
he wants to do something more, or he wants to do something and make something of himself. And Minnie says this line, oh my gosh, it's like, who in whose eyes, Joseph?
Mm-hmm.
In people's eyes, in people's in people's eyes or God's eyes, which ones matter, you know?
Yeah.
Or in your own eyes or in God's eyes, you know? Because I think that also is a very big question, because it's like, you know, you know, like, I feel like in a lot of ways, sometimes it's very hard for us to be satisfied with what we're doing, no matter what we're doing. I feel like there's always like a level that we're trying to get to.
Well, and what was it? You sent me something. One second. You sent me something, and I'm assuming this was from the Hardy Observer.
Probably, yeah.
but actually that's not on there. But I saw somebody saying that Bill at one point said that Nathan is the type of Mountie who always wonders if he could have done something better.
Yeah.
So that was that Nathan would always kind of wonder, was there something he could have done differently or should have done
Yeah,
differently?
because he really questioned himself. Like Bill was there whenever the shooting happened with that caused his inquiry.
But that's another important thing too, is could have done differently or should have done differently are two totally different things. Because Nathan could have, let the prisoner go in that prisoner transfer when that Mountie got killed. He could have let the prisoner go, but he felt like that was not the right decision to make, that more lives would be lost. So he should have made the decision that he made. So could have and should have are two totally different things in that case.
Yeah.
So, and going back to Fort Clay, of should he have, could he have obeyed orders and gone back and possibly let the cattle rustlers get away, or should he have disobeyed orders and gone ahead and captured them, and it's done, nobody got hurt in the process, it's done, no Mounties were lost, whatever. He may have just saved other Mounties' lives by doing that. So,
and that's what it's all about. I feel like Nathan holds a lot of regrets, but it's not because he actually did anything wrong. It's just like his mind battling with himself. As far as like, could he, like, some people have been thought about, like, does he hold regrets as far as his as far as Colleen's death? Like, does he think that he should have been able to do more to be able to prevent her from death, even though we don't even know how she died? Could she have, just different things, like he even mentioned how he could never understand how Colleen could marry a man like Allie's father. So I feel like a lot goes on in Nathan's head.
I feel like
we always talk about how
word to describe. I feel like if there's one word to describe Nathan, I would use honorable, because that really encompasses a lot.
Me too. Honor. He's an honorable man, but he's also a very what's the word? Humble man. He's apologized several times to Elizabeth, and honestly, I can see in some ways where there's some things that he should have apologized for how he reacted at the cabin. He could have been a little nicer about that situation. But as far as like apologizing for not going to the parent teachers conference, you'd be surprised how many, at least nowadays, I don't even think they do parent teacher conferences anymore, but a lot of times, there's been plenty of times where my mom has not been able to make it to parent teacher conferences, and I'm pretty sure my teacher didn't invite her to her house to have an intimate, deep heart to heart conversation. But that's just me. But I honestly kind of feel like I'm pretty sure Elizabeth should have been a little bit more understanding of Nathan going and taking Allie to go fishing after what they both just went through. So,
Well, guys, thanks for staying with us so long. Sorry we went a little over our time that we were.
I'm not even going to apologize anymore because
but yeah, thank you all so much for sticking with us and for being here with us. We're really hoping. Sorry, go ahead.
We hope this helped you guys, especially those that were really struggling to, maybe you had some fears going into now you have less fear going into this episode, this coming episode, because I know a lot of people have been expressing how afraid they are to see possibly Nathan doing something, having to be told that Nathan done something wrong. I think the only thing that we have to worry about is obviously possibly seeing Nathan, of course, take a little bit of another hard hit. But I think it's gonna either get resolved in the very same episode or in the next one. I think I'm leaning more towards the same episode. I don't think they're gonna drag this one out.
Well, we do know episode 9 that Elizabeth is distraught over it. So I think we'll kind of see it. I think we'll kind of see a mixture of it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be 100% one or the other.
Maybe she finds out more because of Nathan's reveal of his secret.
Maybe there's kind of like a major conversation there in front of the whole town. And somebody pointed out, I think it was One Calls the Heart TikToks on Instagram, that had pointed out the parallel between Elizabeth. Like if you look at the scenes of Elizabeth confronting Nathan right there, and then you look at the scene where she ran after Jack when he was going off to go to the Northern Territories. Those things look very much alike. It's really
They really do.
I
It was kind of freaky.
I had
It's kind
not
of
put the
freaky.
similarity together, but it was really interesting. But yeah, we really hope that our podcast help y'all. Let us know in the comments what your thoughts are. Remember to keep it PG. And remember,
No
this
fighting.
is a safe space. Yeah.
No fighting.
But we love y'all so much. We are planning to record a third episode for this week. Nice heart hands. I can't do those that
Thank
good.
you.
I don't know. I don't know. It
That's
just
good.
doesn't- Okay, it just doesn't seem to come out right when I do it. I don't know.
You can always do the Korean.
See, I've always
the
wondered what that was. I see a friend that does that. Okay, cool. I'm not doing it right, but we'll figure it out later.
I'll help you.
All right. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening, and remember to like and subscribe and share and let us know in the comments what you think. We love y'all so much, and we can't wait to keep sharing our thoughts on what happens next in Hope Valley. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Love y'all.